we were looking at the essential elements of any contract. In essential elements, we had just revised what we had already learned in our first semester. In that, we have covered there must be two parties to the contract. The parties must be capable. There must be certain offer and certain acceptance for the offer. And today we are going to see the capacity of the parties. Capacity of the parties, in which we had already seen that the parties must be capable. There must be three things which the party must not have. What are those three things? First, the party must not be a minor person. Out of any two of the parties, one must not be a minor person. There must be major. The person must be major. He must have attained more than 18 years of his age. So he must not be a minor person. Second is he must not be any drunkard person. Must not be intoxicated. He must be in his senses. And next is final is he must not be idiot or of unsound of mind. So soundness of mind, age, and drunkardness or the state of intoxication. These three things should be taken care of when the capacity of the parties are to be determined. Okay. So the party must be fully compatible and capable to carry out any contract. Now consent. In consent, 5 important aspects we have seen. What are those 5 aspects in consent? How the consent should be? There are five aspects which should be taken care of when it is a question of consent. First is coercion. Second is undue influence. Then comes fraud. Then misrepresentation and mistake. Under mistake, there are again two types of mistake: mistake of fact and mistake of law. In coercion, now coercion and undue influence we will see both parallelly. Then fraud and misrepresentation we will see parallelly, and finally mistake. Coercion and undue influence. The first main difference in these two aspects is, in coercion there can be or cannot be direct physical force applied to take the consent of the party. Direct physical force applied means there can be any offense happened among the parties. Offense given under IPC. Any offense given under IPC, offenses against the human body. The chapter in IPC which gives these crimes or give the offenses against human body. It can start from your normal physical force, battery, and it can go till the attempt to commit murder, assault, etc. Everything. Every offense given under that offense against human body, that offense must be present in coercion, in the element of coercion. Now, wrongful constraint and wrongful restraint and wrongful confinement. These also again comes under our coercion. What is wrongful restraint and wrongful confinement under IPC? If you are keeping someone in your custody or kidnap someone, abducted someone, and you are keeping and hiding him in your house just to get consent from him to carry out the contract for the performance of contract, that comes under coercion. So whenever coercion comes, then remember there must be any physical force applied. There must be a chance that any offense might have been taken place against the other party by the first party. Okay, so attempt to create that offense, direct commission of that offense, or threatening. Even threatening comes under this offense also. Threatening to commit any offense if consent is not given. These three aspects come under coercion. Understood? So coercion is direct dhamki or direct commission of the offense. Under undue influence, in undue influence what happens? There might be and might not be the direct relation or indirect relation present among the parties, or the two person must be in some relation or in some setting that one person is capable to influence the will of the other person or can dominate the will and wish of the other person. If there is a chance when any lady or female is present in the party, one of the party to the contract, then this undue influence can be very much seen in the performance of the contracts while taking the consent. So undue influence where a person or the party is under the dominance of the other party or under the dominance of any family member of his who is directly consulting to the other party. So in coercion, there is direct offense taken place or threat of the offense. In undue influence, there is only dominance. But important ingredient in undue influence is there must be relation present between the party. Relation can be blood relation, can be any long lost relative, he can be, or the setting or the relation among the parties must be that one person can dominate the will of the other person. This is the difference or the bullet points for coercion and undue influence. Now moving forward to misrepresentation and fraud. Now one huge difference between these two. In misrepresentation there is no mens rea present or there is no intention. The misrepresentation happens by mistake, by your by not paying proper attention. So misrepresentation means wrongfully, not wrongfully, unintentionally presenting or stating any statement, giving any information which leads to the wrong representation of your contractual clauses. Means if any contract is happening between you and me, and if you tell me the TV I am selling you, that TV is in good condition, which you think is in good condition, until you are using the TV, it is in good condition. But until it reaches me by the courier service or by the delivery service, it becomes little bit broken. So you are not responsible. You unintentionally stated that TV is in good condition, but until it reaches me, that becomes broken, then it is misrepresentation of the fact. Though you are not responsible, I am not responsible, but the contract can be stand cancelled because now there is the clauses of the contract now is that clause is wrong now because of the misrepresentation. So contract can be cancelled because the TV is not in the good condition now, which you have already promised me. This happens when there is misrepresentation. What happens in fraud? In fraud, you are intentionally telling me something bad about your product. Intentionally or concealing. You are intentionally avoiding to have communication, proper communication regarding the product. You are intentionally telling me wrong things about the product. Then it is fraud. Means active concealment of the fact or omitting to tell what is there, if there is any flaw product in the present in the product. So two main differences in fraud and misrepresentation is there is intention present in fraud and there is no intention present in misrepresentation. But in both the things, the contract may be voidable or void. In fraud, whenever you find out the flaw, you can make the contract void. In misrepresentation, the contract stands voidable. Means it is the option of the other party. If he wants, he can cancel the contract. If he do not want, then he can pursue the contract. It is voidable contract. But in fraud, the contracts automatically become void after finding out of the flaw. This is the main difference between fraud and misrepresentation. Moving to mistake of fact and mistake of law. There are two kinds of mistake which can happen while performing the contract or while signing of the contract. What are those mistakes? Mistake of law means what? There are certain rules, there are certain acts, there is certain law which is present over the area of the land, over some area. For example, you are performing any contract in Vizag. So there are certain rules present to be carried out. That rules you should follow when you are contracting with someone else in Vizag. So the parties who are performing the contract in Vizag, there is the expectation from the parties that they both of them must know the law of the land, the laws present at the time of contracting. So it is the common intention that the parties must know what are the laws of the land regarding the contract you are performing. So if mistake happens regarding that mistake of law, if you are mistaken regarding the rule, regarding the act which is present, regarding any punishment which can be given after the contract is not performed, then that mistake of law is not a good defense. Means you cannot go to the court and ask that I did not know this rule, I did not know this act, or I did not know this punishment is there. If I do not perform my part of contract, then I maybe get punished. I did not know this rule. This defense you cannot take when you go to the court if non-performance of the contract happens. So mistake of law is not a good defense. You cannot make mistake of law while contracting. So you should take care of regarding all the laws, rules, acts which are present for the contract over that area of the land. Okay. Mistake of fact means anything regarding the contract, any fact, any of the circumstance you do not know about the service of the contract you are about the service you are contracting, or about the product you are contracting. So the service or product about which the contract is happening, if you do not know any of the fact, that you did not know that TV was broken, you did not know the service which the other person is providing, the value of the service the other person is providing, anything, any fact you do not know about the service or the product, that is called as mistake of fact. You did not know the fact while signing the contract, so now you want the contract to be void, or you do not want to perform the contract. That is a good defense. Means mistake of fact is permissible, but mistake of law is not permissible. Mistake of fact means if by mistake you do not know, or by mistake the other party also does not give you proper information by mistake, then you can make the contract cancelled. You can make the contract voidable or void for that matter. But mistake of law, if you do not know the law regarding the contract, then you cannot say that I did not know the law, therefore I do not want to perform the contract. But you can say that I did not know the fact about the product or this fact about the service, then I do not want to perform the contract. This is the difference between mistake of fact and mistake of law. Understood, everyone? This is the highlight of our 5 aspects in consent. Yes, anybody was saying something?
Understood, ma'am. Understood.
Okay. So consent. These are the bullet points in consent. Consent must be free from to make the contract valid. Means if you want a proper contract, the consent from the parties must be free from coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation and mistake. Both kind of mistake. The parties must be capable, means the party must be major, the party must not be drunkard or intoxicated, the party must be of sound mind, not be idiot or unsound mind person. These are the two ingredients we have seen today. That day we had seen acceptance, offer, and two parties involved. So this is how we are completing the ingredients of the contract. Then we had seen communication also, covered the communication area also, communication of the offer and communication of the acceptance, when to be completed. When your message reaches to the other person, then communication can be called as completed. When it reaches to the other person, it is completed to you when you send the message. So there are certain rules for communication to be called as completed for other party, to be called as completed to you. Okay. What else? What else is there? If you can remember anything. What else is required to be? Agreement. Next important point is agreement must not be void or declared void by law. Now, what are the agreements which are declared void by law? Means at the very start, void ab initio. At the very start, whenever you start or think of the starting of any agreement or contract, at the very start, the agreement is void. What can be those agreements? Unlawful agreements. Unlawful means what? Where it is which are restrained by law, which are agreements which are restrained by law. Means law itself has not given permission to carry out such agreements. What can be those agreements? Agreement to provide drugs, the agreement to provide any intoxicating substance. Now, selling of drugs or buying of drugs is not a lawful agreement. Therefore, this agreement is void ab initio. It is void from the very start. Second is agreement is restraint of marriage. You cannot compel any other person or stop any other person from marrying. So, any agreement regarding in between two persons regarding stoppage of marriage, that I will pay you 10,000 rupees until if you do not marry. So agreement in this that contract or that agreement is also void ab initio. Agreement with minor person is void ab initio. Agreement or stopping any other person from doing any activity or carrying out any activity to gain income. You cannot stop any other person. You cannot stop any other person to gain your employment. So, restraint of the rights of any other person. Those agreements void ab initio, means void from the beginning. Understood? Okay. When all of these essential ingredients are present in this agreement, then that becomes a valid contract. So, to carry out any valid contract, there must be all these ingredients present. If all these ingredients are present, that contract becomes a standard contract. Now, standard form of contract also we have seen. Standard form of contract or standard contract, there are all the elements present. When all the legal formalities are properly taken care of, legal formalities means what? Means proper agreement contract is created. It is signed by both the parties in presence of the registrar. It is signed by the witness in the presence of registrar, and proper registration or proper registry is made over the contract. So, all the essential ingredients, all these legal formalities when present, then that contract becomes a standard contract. Though it is not necessary for any contract to become a standard contract. It is not necessary that contract must be of a standard nature or must be in written format, must be signed by but for your can you please mute your mic? For your faith and for your proper standing in the court of law. It is essential or it is necessary. It is up to you. It is up to you whether you want your contract to be registered, you want your contract to be notarized, you want your contract to be written on stamp paper or normal paper. It is up to you. But whenever any clause is not followed by the other party, or if any part out of the two parties one is not performing his side of the contract, then when you go to the court, then it is necessary or it will be beneficial for you that you have the standard form of contract. Okay, so your defense automatically becomes strong in front of the court. So if you want this strong defense or if you want this beneficiary thing on your side, then your contract must be of a standard form. It must be that all the essential ingredients must be present, all the parties must be capable, the contract must be properly written on the official document, it must be signed in front of the registrar, it must be signed by the witnesses. So all of these things when present, the contract become a standard contract. Okay, this was all our essential ingredients of the contract. Everything regarding essential ingredients. If any query is there, you can ask me or whenever we will meet in the next lecture. In the next lecture, we will go forward with the wagering agreements and contingent agreements. Okay.